I was watching this video and it brought something really interesting to my mind. Now, this guy usually makes really interesting things with like blobs and clay and all kinds of stuff. And he makes these cute little blobs with googly eyes, and I love to watch his videos. So I came across this particular video where he was making this little blob out of clay, and as he was shaping and molding the clay with his hands, I noticed something quite interesting. As he held that clay in his hands, shaping and molding it, his fingerprints were indented into it. And it brought to mind how God created man, and God formed Adam out of clay. For you to form something out of clay, you have to get hands in. God made every other thing by speaking into existence, but once it came to man, he had to get right into the mud and form Adam out of clay. But that's a topic on its own which I can go into. But the place that was very interesting to me was the fact that the fingerprint of this man was literally being embedded in that little figure, and by the time the clay dried, it had become a part of that thing. And it's interesting that for God to use his hands to mold us, that means that his fingerprints are embedded in every part of our nature. And these embedded fingerprints rise up to become a texture in our being. Not only that, but he breathed into us and he put his spirit into us. And when you think about fingerprints is something that is all about signature. Like every single human's fingerprint is different, and it is a way to know that you are you. There is no one in this world who shares a fingerprint with another person. Now imagine that God's fingerprint, God's unique signature is embedded in who you are. That says a lot about we as God's creation, and that's something really interesting. And when I read this verse, it brought everything together, and I'm going to read it for you guys. So the verse is taken from Acts chapter 17 verse 26. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place. Now look at this, verse 27 says that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way towards him and find him. Yet he is actually not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as even some of your own poets have said, for we are indeed his offspring. And 29 says, being then God's offspring, we ought not to think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art of the imagination of man. The times of ignorance God overlooked, but now he commands all people everywhere to repent, because he has fixed the day in which he will judge the world in righteousness by a man whom he has appointed. And of this he has given assurance to all by raising him from the dead. Friends, this is Easter period, and when you think about like the resurrection of Jesus Christ and the gift that he gave unto us through his blood, there is this intentionality in everything. Like from the creation of man, where he put his hands in us, like his fingerprints were embedded in us and solidified, calcified in who we are, to him reviving that dead carcass, that lifeless blob of clay, him bringing it back to life through the death of his son Jesus Christ. It says here that every one of us ought to repent. I don't know who is out there. I'm not a preacher, I'm just a girl who loves Jesus, but I just want to urge you that anyone out there who still hasn't repented, who still hasn't come to God sincerely, feel your way towards him, because even in your DNA there is a yearning, like even in your heart, in the core of who you are, there is a yearning for you to come back home. I was praying the other day and I was praying that there will be a massive revival in this period, that scores of people will begin to come back to their first love and come back to the source of their existence. And that will continue to be my prayer, that we recognize that we were made by the hands of God, that His fingerprint is in us, that we belong to Him, and our lives are for His glory.